How's it going, guys? Brett Medlock here. I wanted to do a video focusing on Xbox because, of course, they just had their showcase. There was a lot of interesting things shown. I don't think it was a stellar showcase, but I did like a lot of stuff that got revealed, like Avowed, like Fable. To celebrate their recent showing of games, I wanted to do a video focusing on Xbox because a lot of you might not realize this, but there are a handful of Microsoft published or Microsoft associated games on Nintendo Switch. Now, keep in mind, some of these were probably already in development before Microsoft acquired the studio, but as of right now, the 5 games I want to talk about are either owned by Microsoft, developed by one of their studios, or they were published by Microsoft, or Microsoft has some type of stake in the IP. So sit back and let's rank all 5 Xbox games on Nintendo Switch. Number 5 goes to Minecraft, and I know what you're thinking, Minecraft is a huge success, but I'll be honest, I was just never able to get into it. That said, from the outside looking in, I can totally see why this would be a mega popular success. It was basically the first game that was digital Legos, and kids ate it up. This game was fully brought to Nintendo Switch by Microsoft as they purchased Mojang, the developer, way back in September of 2014. This was one of the first times we saw Nintendo and Microsoft work together, and there's nothing else I can really say about Minecraft that you probably don't already know. So let's jump on to the next one. Number 4 goes to Cuphead. Now, Microsoft does not own Studio MDHR. As you might remember, when it was originally announced for the Nintendo Switch, it said Microsoft during the Nintendo Direct. So they were the sole publisher of the game on Nintendo Switch, which is really awesome and really smart of them to bring this game to Switch, as I'm sure it sold great on the platform. Cuphead was not only considered an instant classic because of its beautiful 1930s inspired art style, but it actually has rock-solid platforming and insanely intense boss fights. And along with that is a fantastic soundtrack that goes so well with the visuals. I cannot recommend this game enough. If you haven't picked it up on Switch yet, it's a must play. Number 3 goes to The Outer Worlds. Now, I know what you're thinking, the Nintendo Switch version was heavily criticized because of its graphics, but I'll be honest, guys, I was one of those reviewers that didn't really mind the graphical sacrifice because I never really thought that was where the game shined to begin with. The Outer Worlds is amazing because of its branching stories, amazingly written and well-acted characters, and its unique world ran by greedy corporations. The main storyline had me hooked from beginning to end, and even though the game doesn't look too hot on Switch, I still thought it was fully playable and easy to enjoy. I'll be sure to link my full review for The Outer Worlds at the end of this video. Now keep in mind, The Outer Worlds was developed by Obsidian, which Microsoft purchased during the development of The Outer Worlds, so Private Division was actually the publisher of that game when it originally launched and the Nintendo Switch version. So no, Microsoft didn't necessarily have anything to do with this version of the game, but they do technically own Obsidian, the developer, right now. Number 2 has to go to Ori and the Blind Forest. I played this game just earlier this year, right before the sequel hit Xbox One. And while I did have some gripes with the platforming and save system, the incredibly beautiful setting, along with the overarching narrative, kept me engaged from beginning to end. There's also some really awesome platforming sections, but I didn't really think the studio nailed the platforming until the sequel, which I highly recommend as well, even though it's not on Switch. Now, once again, Microsoft doesn't own the studio behind Ori and the Blind Forest, but once again, I do think they have some type of stake in the IP and publishing rights to these games. If you love or even like Metroidvania games at all, do yourself a favor and play Ori and the Blind Forest, and if you have an Xbox One, definitely play the sequel, The Will of the Wisps. Number 1 on this list has to go to Hellblade. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a narrative-driven third-person action-adventure game that focuses heavily on Senua, who suffers from hallucinations and delusions during her journey. These are all symptoms of psychosis. The game's developers, Ninja Theory, worked extremely hard with doctors and people who actually suffer from psychosis, and the game's story is told brilliantly. Of course, the Nintendo Switch version takes a hit in the graphics department, but surprisingly, the game looks and plays great on Nintendo Switch. I even recently put it on my list of best realistic graphics on Nintendo Switch, and I'll be sure to link that video at the end as well. I don't want to dive too deep into the story elements of Hellblade because I feel like it's best experienced going in as a blank slate. Microsoft purchased Ninja Theory after Hellblade came out, so I'm not really sure if this game was already in the pipeline for Nintendo Switch or if they had something to do with it. But on Nintendo's website, it does say that Ninja Theory self-published it. At the end of the day, 4 of the 5 of these games I absolutely adore, and Minecraft, which I'm not really into, is a phenomenon, so obviously I'm in the minority. In my opinion, all of these games are worth picking up on Nintendo Switch, along with their sequels, or inevitable sequels, on Xbox One or Xbox Series X. But that's all I got to say today, guys. Check out these games, they are really awesome, and let me know what you thought of the Xbox Showcase down in the comments. I thought it was decent, I'm really excited about a few games, but I'll be honest, I was hoping for a bit more out of the conference. Thanks again for watching, hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, that thumbs down if you didn't, and if you're feeling generous, hit that subscribe button, and maybe even that notifications bell. This is Nintendo Enthusiast signing off. I'll talk to you guys later.